All right, so let's take it to the whiteboard here and see if we can break down this for you. We have our foot, our knee, and our hip. When we talk about the hip, we're talking about the pelvis and the femur and the relationship between the two, and typically how the femur moves on the pelvis. And at the bottom here, when we talk about the foot, what we're really talking about is that ankle and how the foot moves on it, or vice versa. All right, so let's start at the bottom, because after all, this is our foundation, because the foot is the only thing that is in contact between us and the ground, typically unless you're on all fours. So we have our center block here representing our foundation. We need that to be stable. We need that to be level. If it's not, what ends up happening is everything above that is also unstable. And what you'll see here with the knee, who gets blamed the most, represented by a Pinocchio-like figure here, is that he's really the puppet. Because what ends up happening is if we don't have a stable foot for that knee to move on, well, most of the symptoms are felt in our knee, and we end up blaming him for all of our problems, when really it could be a foot issue all along. Moving up the chain, we have this guy up here at the hip, and he typically controls actually where our knee goes. So a lot of my clients will tell me that they need to get their knees stronger. Well, the first indication to me is usually that means they have a weak hip, because they can't control the knee. And also, it could be that they have an unstable foot. But this guy up here, the hip, actually acts as the puppeteer. And the reason is that femur moves as our muscles on our hip move it. And that's things like our glute medius, so on and so forth, our quads, our hip flexors, hamstrings. And so we have these culprits that usually end up being the problem. But unfortunately, this guy gets blamed because he lies to us, indicated by the big Pinocchio nose there, and tells us that he's injured and typically makes us think that he's the problem.